Real stories with bold creatives. Captain Off Script Podcast.
James, Martin, and Jennifer, you talked about technology evolving and always being kind of different. And the five of us, we have experienced that. Most of us with Adobe Flash, which I always somehow return whenever I have a guest, online. And everyone started with Adobe Flash and make those flashy, cool websites, animated and everything. I loved it. It was so cool. And then overnight, everything fell apart. And then you have to figure out who you are after that. And what do you do? That's over. I'm not going to have any more business building Flash websites so I would say evolving is kind of the only constant we have. But where does the AI come in? Do we let it in? What's your perspective on AI and design industry?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting conversation, especially because I come from, First Nation perspectives here in Canada. And we have, some colleagues on both sides of the fence. Some are very active in developing their own AI models to protect culture, to protect language, to really try to bring together a tool that can serve our needs. And I say under proper stewardship, because we had a great story during one of our client projects where an elder from my community said, just like a physical space, our digital spaces need to be protected. It's a lot of data and stories and culture and thinking that I just think that we're not giving enough respect to protect. And we're in this phase, we're in the Wild West phase, which we see it every day changing. And I'm always mind blown. But and we have colleagues who are against it, right? Because it is appropriation of culture. A lot of what's on the internet is garbage, is racist, is garbage data in, garbage data out. So a lot of it can be hurtful. And as much as it's come a long way, I think we still have to recognize it as a tool, a very powerful tool that definitely needs some stewardship. So whenever we use it, or telling clients about what they should use, especially for small businesses, for First Nations who really need to get advantages as quickly as they can, giving them the right tools to say you do have control over it, right? You can make your own models. They're not that hard. It's not, again, none of these tools are magic where people think they are. Same as what I thought HTML was. I taught, Angela, we're talking about mentoring. I taught a web design class quite a while ago, and seeing kids' brains when they could learn how to make a web page, they were like, oh my God, just a whole world opened up. And I feel that's like it is with AI as well. It's a very powerful tool. It doesn't think for you. It just, organizes data in a way that tries to make sense. So I'm not opposed to it, but I'm definitely, hoping that we'll see some more stewardship, regulations on it and proper usages of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, can I ask a question, Jennifer? Can you just describe First Nation to me, just so I understand
I'm glad
it a
you
little
asked
better?
that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you asked that, because I was thinking the same, and I was thinking, is that a silly question? Did I know this?
No. I ask silly questions. It's all good.
I'll leave it for James.
Yeah.
Yes. So Indigenous people across the world, specifically in Canada, we have three groups that we recognize: First Nation, Métis, and Inuit. So they all have their distinct differences, but I'm in what we call Northern Ontario and Anishinaabe. So we have different cultural groups, hugely diverse populations across Canada and the US and Mexico, and in Australia. So we're working in a lot of Commonwealth countries, but foundationally the Indigenous people of Canada, First Nations being certain cultural groups within that framework.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
That makes
great question.
Thank you for the great answer. And I'll follow up with, look, I mean, the stewardship's such an interesting thing, because unfortunately the people who are in control of the AI don't seem to be the greatest people on the planet, let's be honest. I think that's the biggest worry that we've all got. I don't know them personally, but we can do our bit. But I think the people up there, I think there's too much money involved for them to hold back. And I don't know if they're in as much control as they think they are. I think that's another slight issue. So look, I think let's bring this kind of back down to like normal people like us, because if they say what if the things they're saying is true, that's coming, this conversation could be anything, couldn't it? So let's talk about the things that AI will possibly accurately affect for the design industry. And I mean, like personally for me, I actually am quite excited about the software and the tool. I'm also incredibly scared of it. I'm both equal parts shitting myself and crying with happiness, because it's impossible to know which side you should be on. Because as somebody who loves new tech and jumping on new things, it excites me, but I can see the impact that it's potentially going to have, which scares the shit out of me. So, and I don't think it's just our industry. I think it's globally. I think it's going to affect a lot of different things. But I think, as we've seen already, I do believe, let's again stripping it back to simple, like execution is going to be commoditized. I do believe that is happening already, and I think that will only get better. I think that's probably the least of our worries in the whole grand scheme of things. But because I think for every good thing it can do, I think there's going to be 20 bad things that's going to happen with it as well. So, but with, like we as humans always do, we evolve and we are very adaptable as a species, and that's why we're still here. Do you know what I mean? So I do believe we've talked about curating your taste, having, like, pushing that creativity, and I believe being better thinkers is going to help us in this kind of world that where the execution's slightly easier. Do you know what I mean? So, look, I could, again, I'm a big lover of this subject, but I'm not going to gobble up all the time. So I'll hand it over. But that's just kind of my very base layer, easy to understand stuff.
Can I ask a question? Design-wise, day to day, what tools do you use in AI? Because obviously the copywriters and people out there would use, I suppose, Claude or Otter or ChatGPT. But design-wise, what are the tools that you use on your day-to-day that you're excited by or you use? If that's all right, Alan, is that okay to ask? Is that all right? Sorry, I'm not taking it, just out of interest.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, like, I've used a lot of, so for example, if I take my whole entire design process, it's there from the beginning. So on a client call, I have some sort of AI translator or like a Fireflies or something recording the call. So I don't necessarily have to worry about making too many notes, and I can bring that back in. I can bring it into ChatGPT, and I've taught it to break that conversation down into certain chunks, so I can then build brand ideas and then understand like how I can potentially conceptualize stuff and visualize stuff. In the agency, we kind of tend to use a lot of Mid-Journey for mock-ups and stuff like that. So rather than having to purchase mock-ups now, we can create very specific mock-ups for a very specific application. ChatGPT is great to bounce ideas around with. I've actually created like multiple different personas in there. So I've got people who know design, people who don't know design, people who are geniuses and people who aren't so. And when I'm like writing something or trying to explain something, I can bring them in to let me know whether I need to simplify it or change it around. It's a very good idea tool. And I was thinking about this the other day. Is like my brain does this quite a lot, and what would usually happen is I would be on a walk, say 5 years ago, and I'd have an idea, and that idea would bounce around in my head until I either got written down on a note, put in a sunshine drawer, and then probably left. Whereas now, when I have an idea, I talk to ChatGPT, and I know it's telling me I'm great all the time, and that the robots are supposed to do that. But I have this ability to be able to make that idea better or push it further and ask stupid questions and get some sort of response that would allow me to then pivot, tweak, move that 1 degree left or right. So for me, like I wasn't an early adopter at all, but I was told that I should bring it into absolutely everything I do to know where it's good and where it's not so good. and then keep going where it's good and remove it where it's bad. And there are certain things it's not so good at. There's certain places it gets in the way, but there are also some great ways it gets used for me personally. Anyway.
Can I add on the design side of things with AI? I think it's important to clarify the difference between generative AI and assistive AI. So we have generative in things like Photoshop, or where you can type in a prompt and it comes up with a completely brand new piece of artwork based on a string of sentences that you put together. What I love about the introduction of AI into design is the assistive part, doing the tasks that used to take ages, like removing background. Now it's one click of a button, and that is actually AI doing that. It's recognizing a human shape, removing it from the background, and doing a really good job. Or in things like I use Premiere Pro to make my videos, and Premiere Pro uses AI to generate the transcript from my video, and it can cut the transcript based on the pauses in the sentences, and that's AI technology as well. So that's amazing. I'm all for like assistive AI. Anything that can be introduced into my daily life that reduces a task or makes a task faster is brilliant. I don't enjoy generative AI as much. It just feels a bit fake. I feel like you can tell most of the time when it's been done. I do use it. I use it for things like generative extend. It's really handy for like extending images past the point where you don't have them. So if you're making a website, you can create some copy space. That's fantastic. But it is scary because, you know, as little as a year ago, I did a whole webinar on making mock-ups for clients, like putting logos onto people's t-shirts and bringing like client pictures into your presentations and putting a logo onto their business or their t-shirt or their car, something cool like that. That used to be a proper skill in Photoshop. And then as little as like a month ago, Nano Banana came out, and now you can do it in 10 seconds just by dropping the image into two places. And like, there's a whole like industry gone in an instant, that's terrifying. Okay. But you know, I'm lucky that's one thing that's going to help my business. But if your job is like Photoshop retoucher or, you know, mock-up person, that's absolutely terrifying. And overall, what I found with clients is that the introduction of AI, it kind of cheapens what we do. Like I speak to people in the gym and like, you're a logo designer, and they go, oh, can't AI do that now? It's like, no, it bloody can't. And like, you have to have this whole conversation about like, you know, why we're still here, which means that, you know, for designers, it's never been more important to kind of show your process, to show how you do things, and to show clients that it's not all AI doing this for me. It's actually, I'm involved with this process, and it needs someone with my expertise to release a project at the quality that you'd expect.
And I think that like I use ChatGPT a lot in our, you know, kind of that strategy forward way before the designers get it or before we start that work. And James, you were talking about like, you know, it's an organization tool of when I capture things, and I often have these disjointed thoughts. Like I'm one of those contrarians that it's really hard for me to put it in a framework because I'm bouncing off things, questioning why this is why it is. And what it's been so helpful for in that assistive approach is saying, okay, here's my problem. Here's a dump of solutions. Here's a dump of ideas. Can you give me a standard framework for this plan? And it knows everyone's standard framework. So for me, it's the best of you know, kind of those two worlds of thinking, that really creative, like chaos, but the best of, for me, of some business writing, you know, and I can say, okay, yes, this framework works, you know, where roughly would you put it? And then I can almost, you know, in my web becomes very organized very quickly, and it's reduced. Gosh, starting an outline for me used to take like 2 days. And now I can just dump. I can be in my car, right, talking to it saying, oh my gosh, I just thought about this, or I heard this on the news. Can you add this, you know, or just keep track of this for me? Because where I am in Ontario, it's quite large, you know, as compared to UK. I was looking at you know, how big Scotland was. You know, it's southern. It's like a very small portion of Ontario is the equivalent of Scotland. So
we are very small. Yeah, we are very small.
Yeah, I drive a lot for clients, so 4 hours drive, both 400 kilometers.
I could get
Toronto
to
and back.
almost get to Scotland from the south coast in 4 hours. Oh, that's a lie. I can probably get to maybe closer to Liverpool, but it'd be pretty close.
So I have a lot of time to think, you know, and it's been great for that organizational. But again, as other James said, for me, it's just assistive. Like, it should not be coming up with my ideas, because those ideas have not solved anything in the past where they've come from, that it's already calculated. We need that, you know, initial input and refinement on it as well. So
But that's also where the taste comes from, isn't it? And I think that's the discernment, and I think that's something that everybody on this panel has is, and this is why so many clients and so many people will just use it, and whatever it spits out, they'll be okay with, because they don't have the discernment to know whether this is good or bad. It's just a thing which does a job, and I don't care what that job is. Do you know what I mean? So, and I think that's where, like we talked about earlier, if execution is going to be commoditized, it's the brain and the discernment and the taste that's going to be the thing that is going to be very valuable. Do you know what I mean? So you can get these things to create multiple ideas for you, but you've still got to choose which one's the right one, or know which one's the right one. So,
it's not a paintbrush that makes the artist, right? It's not the tools. It's never been Photoshop that makes a good designer. So that's why, again, at the end of the day, I was not fundamentally worried by exactly that.
Yeah, that's so true. I also agree. In my work, I do type design, so I don't use it to generate ideas or anything. And I believe that's important for us if we really want to be better tomorrow. What James Martin said, like trying to get better every day. Because if you put the AI to give you the ideas, or to give, for example, to me to design letters, tomorrow I'm not going to be better, I'm just going backwards. So yeah, for generative, I'm definitely not into it, but assistive is something that changed so many things for me. James Barnard reminded me with removing the background. Like 10 years ago, I had my own design agency before, and we did this project for a client where we had to actually remove the backgrounds. He did like these small houses, and we needed to remove the backgrounds and leave only the houses. And that took us like 3 weeks, 2 people working on dozens of photos in Photoshop and like removing everything. It was a nightmare. And now you go into Photoshop and it's just like, it's a click and the background is gone. And for me as well, what I've done, for example, I use ChatGPT because to write me scripts in Python, which I have no idea about, like HTML and WordPress and PHP are fine, but Python is something like a different level. But it writes you a script on how to animate your own letters in After Effects. So it's kind of a completely new perspective that I actually get to present my work. And recently I did that on Instagram, and it's really something new. So that's something I use it for example, and also to bounce the ideas off and just to actually release all of that's in my mind. And as Jennifer and James said, it's just, there's so many ideas inside, and you have to put it out there to actually see what's really good and what's not. So yeah, I definitely agree with you guys on that one.
I think
you can jump in.
Please, I think
on.
just to kind of like finish, like not wrap it up, because that's not what we're doing. But I do. No. I think it's such like the Wild West. I think it was Angela mentioned, or Jennifer. I can't remember exactly who it was, but we are at the beginning. Do you know what I mean? It's AI has been around for many years. Do you know what I mean? But like really, it's now this big thing that's happening right now. But I think the way I like to think about it a little bit as well is that like right now we have a choice. We have a choice on how we implement it, how we choose to use it, how we evolve with it, how we grow with it. I worry and I say I would never try and tell people you should or you shouldn't use it. But I say like maybe one day the potential is that the choice won't be there. Do you know what I mean? And I would hate for people to be so far behind that they don't have even a clue on how these things work. Do you know what I mean? Even understanding, like James says, the difference between these different models, what they can all do, what's their power. Even like there's so many great podcasts out there that you can go and listen to experts who are kind of like on the left and then on the right, and some people are going to the doom, and some people are on the kind of excitement and what the possibilities are, and just absorbing it, because I would guarantee one thing: it's not going anywhere. So sometimes it's better the devil you know. I just want to leave that there.
Yeah, that's a good one. But also, what about sustainability? What about the ethics of the AI? Where do we stand in that one?
I was going to bring that up actually because I made that point too because somebody, I was at a webinar I think the other day, yeah, it was on sustainability actually around websites and ChatGPT and the amount of effort of the amount of energy, sorry, it's late, the amount of energy it uses to put prompts in, and the amount of water we're going to need to actually keep these servers going and cooling systems. And I just think if you don't need to use it, don't use it. Don't say thank you, even though you love your persona. Just apparently that uses even more energy if you say thank you or have a great day or something like that. So just be aware of what you're typing into these systems. One of the things I absolutely, again, I'm not judging anyone, you might have done it. One of the things I absolutely hated a few months ago was when everyone was doing those dolls and the amount of energy that used to say that I don't remember if you saw those, what are they kind of mechanic Barbie doll
I think we
things.
couldn't miss them. Yeah.
And I was just like, what is this? It's just using so much energy. And I wish people knew how much energy it was using and waste before they actually did it and posted about it.
Yeah, I actually heard for the first time an agency say that they were more eco-friendly because of using AI for a certain particular task. And this was, did you hear about the first Vogue model that was used, the first AI Vogue model? This was, I think, a few months ago, Jennifer, I think.
Not that long ago.
And then, I don't think it was, I think a month ago or so. But basically, what they would usually have to do is they would usually have to fly their models around the world, fly their photographers around the world, shoot in multiple different locations. And it was actually it was better for the planet. It was actually the kind of data was kind of put in place. Like, you can spin it however, these people love to spin it, don't they? But essentially what they were saying was because of the way they used generative AI for this model, it was actually better for the planet than flying loads of people around the world to shoot some photos. Now, crazy, stupid, kind of misses the point slightly here, but yeah, I think the biggest problem is going to be is that I wish more people cared about the planet. I really wish they did, but because I think they care more about making money and saving some money and the bottom line. Now, I'm not saying that's right at all. I'm just saying, for example, if you take somebody like Zara, do you know what I mean? You think about like this huge global fashion brand with all of these different places across different parts of the world and cultures and all the rest of it. Like, it's going to be like, rather than taking all of these photos of all these different outfits and all these different models of all these different colors and all these different races, do you know what I mean? They're just going to use AI because it saves them money. Do you know what I mean? Because they would be stupid not to, because most corporations, their only one legal obligation is to make their people money, to make their investors money. And I think that is going to be the problem, which it always has been.
Yeah, and I would love to chime in because, Angela, you're right. We have this discussion at a staff level. And I think because, my background, the communities we serve are underserved, they're diverse, and they have had, such inequities over the last centuries that to say, okay, here's a brand new tool. You're destroying the environment versus, let's say, these giant corporations, and we won't get into Vogue's ethics about beauty standards on AI, right? Especially in the sphere of women's fashion. So I think when you were saying it in a terms of how do we have a resource? It is not an infinite resource. That's what we always think of. Oh, all of this is just infinite. It's digital, but it's not. You need to think about its impacts. Like, how do you use it? And I do not try, I do try to not say thank you to it, but I'm one of those people that the Sarah from Terminator, right? Hopefully they won't come for me because and I'm Canadian, nice so we have to say thank you so much. But it really leads that thought of how do we use it sustainably? Like, it's going to be a tool. It is not going away. How do we make sure that the right people also get access and don't feel so guilty? It reminds me of, recycling and everyone paper straws when we still have huge corporations dumping, millions of tons of garbage. But I think that's a great discussion about, how best can we use it at our level, I'm going to say like a consumer level, because we don't use it as much as, let's say banks do or whatever. But also be able to take advantage of it so we're not left behind in some capacity, or that people who have not been able to take advantage of other resources, still keep that leg up in competition, in their own revenue generating, and all the benefits it does have. Such a tricky situation.
I wish we could get like a definitive answer on like the actual environmental impact of like putting a prompt into ChatGPT, because I've heard so many different. Someone commented on one of my posts saying that it's as much as like a liter of water is used per prompt. And that sounded really high to me. But then other people were like, yeah, that's totally true. And there's no like actual answer out there. It's really, how guilty do we really need to feel when we're asking questions to ChatGPT all the time? But there's definitely a concern. And also the concern, like cost-wise, is like people like Adobe have just announced that they're raising their rates to kind of fund this AI bandwagon, because the monumental cost of all of these people generating images is getting so big now that even Adobe are having to like put a credit system on it to make sure that they are kind of covering their own backs. One thing we haven't talked about AI is the legal ramifications of doing it. Like, let's say somebody creates a logo using generative AI. As far as I'm aware, you can't trademark that logo because you need like human input to do it, and using like an open source model means that you're actually, it's not like a protected IP in that sense. You can't actually trademark anything designed by AI. Is that true? Has anybody else heard that?
Yeah, I think so. But there's also only a certain amount of countries that adhere to trademark rules anyway. Do you know what I mean? So like
the big
and
ones,
also like
US, UK, EU.
Yeah, I know, but like at the end of the day, like they're going to try hard, I think, to remove IP law or change it. I think that's probably the next big thing to happen over the next year or two. Do you know what I mean? And that's gonna open up a whole can of worms. But it needs more to learn from. Do you know what I mean? Got to feed the beast. Do you know what I mean? So, look, I think like none of us here, and I would also almost guarantee even the people who are like in charge of this have no clue what's coming. I don't think anybody is in control at the moment, because I think they're just letting it do its thing, because that's the way that it learns. It kind of does its own thing. Do you know what I mean? So look, I think for any of us to sit here and predict the future is silly, because all we're doing is guessing. Because it could be a year, it could go away, it could take over the world. You just don't know. So I think this is why, going back to your roles and your humanness and all these things that you can control are very, very important. I think more important now than ever. Like the things you stand for, the people you believe in, the things that light you up and energize you. Do more of those things is what I would suggest. More. Get out of the shit job that you hate and do something you want to do is what I would suggest right now.
I was talking to a fellow type designer the other day, and like we were talking a year ago, we were so afraid that by now AI will take our jobs already. Like we would be without a job, AI putting out like fonts and typefaces and everything. And we actually figured out that there are actually more other people who are copying our work than the AI. AI didn't, I mean, at least for my industry, it didn't really make such a big influence so far. What will be in 5 months, God only knows, but it really didn't change that part. But what other people do, it's a completely different, you know, in the copying and everything, which is also we worry about AI so much, but we are not aware where it's going to be in a year. Maybe we'll still be like talking about the same things we do today. I mean, it's likely improbable, but you know, it will evolve in a year, but maybe not so much. Maybe we should just keep on bringing, as James said, the human side of us and the human parts into our work and make it imperfect, make it, you know, like not AI, because AI will probably try to make like perfect lines, perfect everything, and like just try to be more human, I guess.
Yeah, I think it will definitely get to a point where they'll need to figure out the environmental side and how to power it. Do you know what I mean? Like that. This is why fusion is, or fusion or whatever is probably going to be the next. That's where Zuckerberg seems to be putting a lot of money right now for a reason.
Yeah.
So, look, you know, I think it's, yeah. I think yes.
The subject is actually really interesting to me. Sorry for interrupting you, because my husband is actually working in sustainability and environmental protection, and I know a lot about what's going behind the things, and I have a feeling that European Union will start to, you know, slowing down the AI involvement in the European Union. But what will happen in the States, what will happen in other countries is a completely different thing. So maybe European Union will stay behind like we do in so many different things, but especially when it comes to tech. But maybe they will try to, you know, implement some sustainability laws and different things to actually care more about the earth we are living on. So we'll see, I guess, in a year where.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah. It's gonna be a fun
it was
ride.
kind of, you know, we brought in a bit of dark clouds, I would say. So what are you guys excited about that the future might bring? Let's start with Angela for this time, James.
Oh my
what do you
gosh.
think?
Future. Oh, that's so hard, Alan.
Really?
We can't read into the future. I find it's quite hard. Yeah.
Trends that everyone is predicting.
Do you know what?
Like
trends. Again, I think I have to bring it back to people. I don't know. I mean, for me, it's people, and my thing is meeting people. I love talking to people. I love going out. I think we need more type of things where we meet people, networking, different types of events or organizations. I know I've set one up with my couple of friends called Creatives Like Us, where I talk to Black, brown individuals around their creative business. So I think it's about, I don't know, for me, what I'm excited about the future is, I suppose, people. We're just meeting more people and going out. And I think that's really important, design-wise, as building communities.
Okay.
Agreed. Can I jump in there? Yeah, I think community is what I'm excited about at the moment. I'm going to do a massive plug now because I just launched an online community for designers.
Yay!
And Alan's actually a part of it. Sorry, huge plug. I won't talk about it anymore. But it's, you know, freelancers work on their own alone. It can be a lonely affair being a designer. And I've just found lately that people just seem to want human connection more. And I love the fact that there are places like that out there now that you can actually go and chat to other people, share your work, get to know one another. And I love networking events. I love conferences. I think, you know, just trying to get out of the house a bit more is what I'm excited about. Just, stop worrying about client work so much and actually trying to really make an effort to find some human connection. Just makes me a better designer, makes me feel happier. I'm all for that.
I've been super excited because we've been traveling a lot. Like I said, just a couple months ago, we were in Australia. A little while before that, in France, and it's been on an idea of Indigenous design at a global level. What can First People bring to the design conversation, to communications, traditionally in so many countries where those voices have not been heard? And it's really exciting because I do get to talk with college students and we go to conferences, and the questions I get asked are just so much better from students, from the next generation. When I get questions, I'll say from people who are older than me, they're always awful, they're racist, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. But when I do turn to the youth, I'm like, wow, their minds are so much focused. They are asking questions. They're trying to buy ethically. They're the ones who are concerned about the sustainability, of things like AI. And they're the ones who are going to enforce that and say, no, I don't want to buy that, with all hopes, with my heart. So I'm really excited about that. And it's interesting because, everyone, comes to our studio and we're trying to carve those paths for them that haven't been there. And I'll mention too that they're asking for resources. So it's been great to provide resources. We're going to do a toolkit at the end of the month for Indigenous communication for some of our clients. And it's been exciting that they come to us, that we're just problem solvers and being able to provide that. And people are really picking up. And at the end of the day, those global perspectives, that diversity, that inclusion, it's for people, it's for planet. And at the day, it's for profit. It makes better sense. People want to buy it. So that's, I'm realistic about the moment, especially being a Canadian just north of the US. There's some real big challenges right now, but, I'm so optimistic about the future of design, of communications in that realm. So that's pretty nice.
That's awesome.
And
I'm just gonna make it all about me. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
Everybody else
What a
is so
surprise.
good. Community, do you know what I mean? Friendship. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, fucking hell. I just want to be
that,
good.
right?
I just want to be a good dad. That's all I'm looking forward to.
Aw.
I think, and a good husband, and a good friend. I think, I think. Do you know what I mean? I don't want this to sound like me being a massive wanker, but I think you're allowed to be selfish. I think sometimes we feel that we have to be there for other people a lot, which is true. It's good to be a good human, but I think sometimes it can come at the detriment of our own happiness and our own sanity. So I'm really focused, because personally I've found that the more focused I am on me, the better I can be as a dad, the better I can be as a husband, the better I can be as a servant to my industry. So I'm really looking forward to becoming a time millionaire. Do you know what I mean? Getting my time back, using the tools I can use to get that back. And rather than working harder, I go to the zoo on a Friday afternoon now, which is the dream for me. So for me, it's finding more ways and hoping people find more ways to do more things that they want. Do you know what I mean? And less of the things that they don't want to do. And I think you have to be a bit selfish in that regards to be able to break yourself out of the common myths and bits and pieces that are shoved in front of us. You have to kind of be the contrarian a little bit and, define your own success and design your own way and try your hardest to not get distracted from that.
Well, anyone else want to jump in, or it's kind of you made a perfect ending point, James.
That was like Jerry Springer's final thoughts. That was lovely. Well done.
I met Jeremy Kyle the other day. He was all right. Do you know what I mean? Do you know Jeremy Kyle? Yeah. Do you know what? I'll tell you the truth here, Angela. Me and my wife were sitting on a train on our way to London, and our little son Rocco, he was having absolutely fucking none of it. Do you know what I mean? He was going absolutely mental, climbing around everywhere, screaming, like he's just wild, feral, just the way I want him. But we were in we're in the first class lounge, obviously, which was an extra £5 than the normal ticket. So we could get a table, obviously. Yeah, it was actually quite cheap, actually, because we bought it real late. And like everybody was like, there was a lot of like older generation kind of sneering, and like my wife was saying that, you know, the old lady over there just kept on like literally like stabbing my wife with her eyes. Do you know what I mean? And it was like she was saying it was really bad. And then when we kind of got into London Waterloo, there was this man holding the door open and letting everybody through, and it was only fucking Mr. Jeremy Kyle. And he said to my wife, he put his hand on her shoulder and he said, "You did a fantastic job there as a mother." Do you know what I mean? I have 5 or 6. He's got a load of kids. He says, "I've got
loads
kids
of
of my
kids,
yeah." He says, "I've got kids of my own, and it's incredibly difficult. And I thought the way you handled that whole train journey was wonderful.
Oh.
Keep being a great mum." And I was like, "Fucking yeah, Jeremy Kyle." Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. So in real life, what I know of Jeremy Kyle, he's a solid dude. Solid dude. There you go.
That's amazing. Thank you, guys. Anyone else want to give a closing thought, or we are good with James? This was kind of a perfect. I know, absolutely right.
It's good. It's good.
Well,
Alan, I didn't say thank you for having me on at the beginning. I'm sorry. I should have said that straight away. So thank you so much for inviting me on. Honestly, it was a real pleasure and honour. Also, when I saw the guest list, I was just like, oh my God, really? So that was my little wow moment. So thank you for having me.
Hey, I feel that way every time someone says, yes, I want to be on the podcast. And I was like when James Martin said it the first time, I mean, he's huge, and for me, it was I'm going to meet the most famous person, in the design industry. Sorry, Mr. Golden Coast. He's a bit more famous than you, I think.
Depends which circles you're in. I was just,
At least when we talk about the followers, he has a bit more followers. So,
we all know that's a bunch of bollocks, though, isn't it?
Starstruck. So I completely understand that, Angela. And thank you all for joining me for this start of the season. I love the conversation. I love that we actually did more human talk than talk about the business and business side of things. So that was really, really amazing. And I'm really looking forward to see you in your own solo episodes, which will be a fantastic continue of this.
Lovely. Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
Thanks,
all.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for waking up early and staying up late, because I'm just ending my day, so this is perfect.
Yeah, you are perfect. I mean, for you, it's just in the middle. So yeah.
I liked you up until
I gotta go to bed
3
now.
minutes ago, Jennifer.
Yeah, me too.
I'm off to do the school
Do you know what?
I'm so sorry.
I'm the same, Angela, but I won't be able to get to sleep for about an hour and a half now because I'm wired. Do you know what I mean?
You're
The brain's
wired
going
now.
to
Decompress.
Yeah. I need to start talking
such a good chat.
ChatGPT. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
How do I get to sleep, ChatGPT?
Yeah. Do you know what? I've got one of those little machines that sounds like the waves on the beach. It's fucking delicious.
Real stories with bold creatives. Captain Off Script Podcast.